May 17th, 1940. A village in Surrey, England. The signpost stands at the crossroads like it has for decades. Weathered wood painted white, arms pointing in 3 directions. Guildford, 8 miles. London, 25 miles. Portsmouth, 32 miles. A local landmark. A guide for travelers since before the Great War. 3 men in council work clothes arrive with tools. No ceremony, no explanation to the handful of locals who stop to watch. 1 man steadies the post. Another works a saw through the base. The third loads the dismantled pieces into a lorry already half full of similar signs. "Seems a waste," someone mutters from the growing crowd. The workers don't respond. They have orders. Hundreds more signs to remove before nightfall. Thousands across the country. Every road sign, every railway station marker, every directional indicator that might help an invader navigate British soil. This isn't vandalism. This is warfare. Just across the Channel, Adolf Hitler's Wehrmacht has accomplished what seemed impossible. France is collapsing. The British Expeditionary Force barely escaped at Dunkirk. Now German eyes turn toward the white cliffs of Dover. Britain prepares for invasion. June 1940. Berchtesgaden, Germany. Hitler studies maps of southern England. His finger traces potential landing sites from Ramsgate to beyond the Isle of Wight. The distance across the Channel, barely 21 miles at its narrowest point. Swimming distance almost. Certainly not an obstacle for the most powerful military machine ever assembled. The Führer has conquered Poland in weeks, Norway in days, France in 6. Britain should be simple, an island, isolated, militarily humiliated after Dunkirk. 300,000 troops evacuated, but forced to abandon nearly all their heavy equipment. On July 16, 1940, Hitler issues Führer Directive No. 16. As England, despite her hopeless military situation, still shows no signs of willingness to come to terms, I have decided to prepare and, if necessary, to carry out a landing operation against her. The operation receives a code name, Seelöwe, Sea Lion. The directive establishes 4 conditions. The Royal Air Force must be beaten down until it cannot display any appreciable aggressive force. The English Channel must be swept of British mines. Heavy artillery must dominate the coastal zone. The Royal Navy must be sufficiently engaged elsewhere that it cannot intervene. German planning proceeds. Invasion barges assemble in French and Belgian ports. Maps are printed. Intelligence gathered. Optimism runs high among the general staff. But 300 miles away, Britain is preparing something unexpected. The meeting room fills with military planners, Home Office officials, Ministry of Transport representatives. Maps cover every surface. Not maps of France. That battle is lost. These show England. Every road, every village, every potential invasion route from the coast inland. Someone raises the obvious question. If German paratroopers land, if invasion barges make it to shore, if tanks roll off makeshift docks onto British beaches, how do we slow them down? The British Army has equipment for perhaps 2 divisions properly armed. The local defense volunteers, soon to be renamed the Home Guard, drill with broomsticks and pitchforks. Concrete bunkers are being constructed, but take time. Beach obstacles help, but won't stop a determined assault. Then someone suggests something simpler. Remove the signs. Not just military markers, everything. Every road sign pointing to the next town, every railway station name at railway platforms, every mileage marker along highways, every street name in every village. Create a landscape where invaders cannot determine their location or destination. The proposal sounds almost absurd, primitive, medieval even, like removing bridges before an advancing army. But it costs almost nothing, requires no scarce steel or concrete, can be implemented immediately, and most importantly, it transforms Britain's entire infrastructure into a defensive weapon. The order goes out within days. June 1940, across England, Scotland, and Wales. They come for the signs at dawn. Council workers, volunteers, Home Guard members, anyone with a ladder and basic tools. The campaign moves with surprising speed. Over 50,000 signs removed in approximately 4 days. Road signs at crossroads, directional posts at village greens, station names at railway platforms, mileage markers along highways, all dismantled, stored, hidden. A man in London watches workers remove the street name from his corner. "How will people find their way?" he asks. "That's rather the point," the worker replies. In coastal areas, the directive goes further. Residents receive instructions to hide any road maps or street atlases they own. Maps that show beach access, inland routes, or strategic locations might fall into enemy hands during invasion. Better they disappear entirely. Train stations lose their identifying markers. A German paratrooper arriving at a rural platform would see tracks, a building, perhaps a few civilians, but no indication whether he'd landed near Birmingham or Brighton, near Portsmouth or Plymouth. The transformation creates immediate problems for British civilians. Road accidents increase in the mandated blackout. People get lost trying to navigate familiar routes. Delivery drivers struggle. Mail carriers resort to memory and landmarks. But if invasion comes, every German unit will face this same disorientation multiplied 1,000-fold. July 1940. German 9th Army Headquarters, France. Officers spread maps across planning tables. Detailed maps, assembled from pre-war tourism guides, commercial atlases, or ordnance surveys purchased before the war. They show Britain's road network in considerable detail.
But maps only work if soldiers can orient themselves to the landscape. If you land on a beach, you need to identify that beach. March inland to a crossroads, you need to determine which road leads toward your objective. Without signs, without station names, without any fixed reference points beyond major geographical features, navigation becomes exponentially harder. The German planners understand this. Their intelligence reports mention Britain's sign removal campaign. They note it in briefing documents. But there's little they can do about it. They cannot force the British to put the signs back. Some officers dismiss the concern. Their troops conquered Poland using maps and compasses, navigated Norwegian fjords, pushed through the Ardennes forest where road signs wouldn't have helped anyway. But Britain presents unique challenges. Ancient villages with winding streets, roads that curve and double back, a network of lanes and paths developed over centuries, not designed by engineers with geometric precision. Cities like London, medieval layouts with mazes of narrow roads and alleys that confuse even locals. Add the sign removal to other British preparations: beach obstacles, flooded marshes, demolished piers, concrete bunkers at every coastal approach, and Operation Sea Lion looks increasingly complex. The Wehrmacht excels at rapid movement. Blitzkrieg depends on speed, but speed requires knowing where you're going. August 1940. The English coast. Searchlights installed along beaches, artillery positions overlooking potential landing sites, Admiralty scaffolding, 9-foot-high barriers of steel tubes constructed at low water marks to prevent tanks getting a solid run at the shore, pillboxes positioned to provide enfilading fire across beaches, some placed low for maximum coverage, others elevated to resist capture, small islands and peninsulas fortified. The Firth of Forth in Scotland receives heavy gun emplacements to protect the Forth Bridge and Rosyth Dockyard. And still no signs, no indicators, no directional guidance anywhere. A peculiar anxiety settles over Britain. The fear Winston Churchill felt in Westminster Abbey, not of death or wounds or material loss, but of defeat and the final ruin of Britain. Congregations pray. Families dig air raid shelters. Children evacuate to the countryside. Everyone waits for the invasion that intelligence says must come soon. The summer weather won't hold forever. Channel crossings become far more dangerous in autumn storms. If Hitler intends to invade, it must be soon. But across the Channel, German preparations stall. The Luftwaffe fails to achieve air superiority in what becomes known as the Battle of Britain. British radar and fighter defenses prove far more resilient than anticipated. Without control of the skies, invasion barges would be slaughtered by the RAF. The Royal Navy remains a formidable threat. Despite German attempts to engage British ships elsewhere, the home fleet can reach the Channel within hours. Invasion barges are slow, vulnerable targets. The four conditions Hitler established in Directive 16 remain unfulfilled. September 17, 1940. Hitler's headquarters. The invasion date has been postponed 3 times. First, from mid-August to early September, then to September 21st. Now, indefinitely. The truth becomes unavoidable. Operation Sea Lion cannot proceed. The Luftwaffe hasn't defeated the RAF. The Royal Navy remains unengaged. The conditions for success don't exist. Hitler makes the decision to postpone indefinitely. He doesn't cancel outright. That would signal weakness, allow British anxiety to dissipate. The official position remains that invasion might still come. Keep the British guessing. Keep them building defenses. Keep their forces tied to home defense rather than deploying elsewhere. But internally, German military planning shifts eastward, toward the Soviet Union. Operation Barbarossa begins taking shape. The invasion barges in French ports start dispersing. Some convert back to civilian use, others move to different operations. The maps of British roads, so carefully studied, get filed away. Those maps still show roads, junctions, towns, cities, but they lack one crucial element: the reassurance that a soldier on the ground could actually navigate using them, because Britain had removed that reassurance one signpost at a time. 1941. Britain. The signs remain removed for years, long after the immediate invasion threat passes, long after Hitler commits his forces to Russia, long after the United States enters the war and the strategic picture shifts entirely. Gradually, selectively, some signs return, but the complete restoration doesn't happen until well after the war's end. Some piers along the South Coast aren't repaired until the late 1940s or 1950s. Historians later debate how effective the sign removal actually was. Would it have significantly slowed a German invasion? How much difference would it have made against a determined, well-equipped assault? But those questions miss the point.
The sign removal didn't need to stop an invasion. It needed to be one more complication, one more challenge, one more factor that made Operation Sea Lion harder to execute. Combined with coastal fortifications, beach obstacles, home guard units, the Royal Navy and RAF resistance, it contributed to an accumulating weight of difficulty. Hitler needed quick victory, blitzkrieg, rapid advance before British defenses could organize or Commonwealth reinforcements arrive. Every delay, every navigation challenge, every moment spent confused at an unmarked crossroads would have eroded that advantage. The signs, or rather their absence, represented something larger. A nation refusing to make invasion convenient, refusing to cooperate with conquest, choosing to become hostile terrain rather than passable ground. The English countryside, any crossroads. Imagine being a German soldier in an invasion that never happened. You've made it across the channel, somehow. Survived the naval bombardment, the RAF attacks, the beach obstacles. You're inland now, 10 miles maybe. Your unit scattered, radio damaged in the landing. You reach a crossroads, 3 roads diverge. Your orders say advance toward a specific town, regroup with other units. But there's no sign, no indication which road goes where. You check your map. The map shows this junction, shows all 3 roads, but which is which? The landscape gives few clues. Rolling hills, similar fields, no distinctive landmarks visible. You choose a road. Maybe it's correct. Maybe you've just added 5 miles to your journey. Maybe you're heading toward a heavily defended position instead of your objective. You won't know until you've marched for an hour. Multiply this confusion by thousands of soldiers, hundreds of units, dozens of objectives. The cumulative effect transforms simple navigation into complex problem-solving, slows everything, creates chaos. This is what Britain created by removing signs. Not an impassable barrier, not a military masterstroke, just friction, confusion, delay. In warfare, sometimes that's enough. Operation Sea Lion never launched. The Battle of Britain prevented it. The Royal Navy deterred it. British resistance made it too costly. Germany's strategic focus shifted eastward. But among the factors that made invasion unthinkable, one remains peculiarly simple: the removal of road signs. It cost almost nothing, required no advanced technology, demanded no scarce resources, just labor, tools, and the willingness to make Britain's own infrastructure unhelpful to invaders. 50,000 signs removed in 4 days, every one a small act of defiance, every absent marker forcing potential invaders to navigate blind, every missing station name adding uncertainty to German planning. The workers who dismantled that first sign in Surrey weren't heroes in any traditional sense. They didn't charge enemy positions or fly fighter planes or command fleets. They took down a wooden post and loaded it in a lorry. But they, and thousands like them across Britain, participated in perhaps the most cost-effective defensive measure of the war. They turned the absence of information into a weapon. They made Britain's landscape hostile through omission. Hitler's directive stated, England showed no willingness to come to terms despite her hopeless military situation. But Britain's response wasn't conventional military resistance alone. It was comprehensive preparation. Concrete and steel, yes, but also subtraction, removal, making the country itself resist conquest. The signs came down in 1940. Operation Sea Lion never came at all. Correlation isn't causation, but defense works through accumulation. Every obstacle matters. Every complication counts. Sometimes you win not by what you build, but by what you take away.